Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, my international friends, joining me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And it is Friday, and I like to give everybody else the day off on Friday, so it's just you and me flying solo, talking about some big stuff. And for Friday, there's a lot of big stuff to talk about here today, guys. Disney and Charter are looking at cracking down on people sharing passwords for streaming services. Is that a good idea? Is that understandable? Is that overreaching a little bit? Ewan McGregor looks like he's coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Speaking of Star Wars, Benioff and Weiss looks like they're going to fully write just one of their 3 movies coming up. Going to talk about the Good Boys movie that I saw last night. We're going to get into that. But before we get into all that sort of stuff, we got a couple of off-the-top topics to get to. But before we even get to that, guys, I want you guys to help out the channel and the program. What can you do for this show and for this channel? Where it's really rather simple. Make sure you click subscribe. Become a subscriber to the John Campea YouTube channel. Stay up to date on everything we got going on here. Give the video a thumbs up if you like these sorts of discussions, and make sure you leave a comment in the comment section below to keep the conversation going. Or if you want your comment or question asked live on a show, just use the super chat feature. It guarantees that your question or comment gets read in video, and at the same time, it's a great way to support the channel, and I thank all you guys who do that. All right, with that down, let's go into some off-the-top topics here. Number 1, Kevin Hart, of course, just made an appearance, a little bit of a surprise appearance in a certain movie that's out right now, which actually surprised nobody. He's been trying to flex his muscles a little bit in some drama, which we saw him do with Bryan Cranston just recently. And it was just announced, it looks like Kevin Hart is going to try to get into the superhero business. That's right. Kevin Hart is going to be doing a superhero movie. Now, before we get too carried away, don't start thinking that Kevin Hart is about to appear in any sort of Marvel or DC film. It's going to actually be an original superhero comedy theme. At least that's what they're saying right now. Over at Cinema Blend, this is what they're saying about this movie. The movie's going to be called Nightwolf, and it's described like this. Before you, the audience, start dream casting of who Hart might best fit in the DC or Marvel universe, his own superpowered film entitled Nightwolf is a bit different. The new project is being described as a superhero movie combined with Meet the Parents, as the narrative will show what happens when a man meets his fiance's parents for the first time, only to find out that his father is a true-blooded super. So that's what they're talking about for this right now. I'll tell you what, I like the sounds of this. Now, Kevin Hart, I don't think you can take Kevin Hart and put him in a DC movie or a Marvel movie. There's just something about Kevin Hart. I'm not saying he's a bigger star than anybody else in DC or Marvel, but there's something about the nature of Kevin Hart's celebrity that I think would be very, very difficult to see him as some other character. I think if he were to pop up in a DC or a Marvel movie, there's something about the nature of Kevin Hart's particular celebrity that I think becomes a little bit of a distraction for something like that. However, you put him in an original comedy like this, something like a superhero movie combined with Meet the Parents, and I think you got the makings of something actually pretty cool. I really do. But now let me ask you guys this. Is there anybody out there who doubts for a moment that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's going to play the fiance's father? Is there anybody who doubts that? I mean, look, if Dwayne Johnson can be in San Andreas and play Alexandra Daddario's dad, why couldn't he play another person's dad who's old enough to get engaged and maybe engaged to somebody like Kevin Hart? I mean, no, seriously now, is there anybody right now? I'm not saying it's 100% guarantee, okay? I'm not saying it's 100% guarantee. I don't have any insider information that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is going to be that guy. But come on, that has to be the first name that comes to your mind, right? The other name that comes to mind for me of who could play, the father, who could be the Robert De Niro to Kevin Hart's Ben Stiller in the Meet the Parents equation? Besides Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the other guy that I think could fit probably pretty well is a Terry Crews. I think Terry Crews would be pretty badass in that as well. So he would be great. An Arnold Schwarzenegger would be great. A Sylvester Stallone would be great. but I just feel like it's an inevitable outcome that within the next few weeks, Variety or Deadline or the Hollywood Reporter is going to drop a story that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has signed up for Kevin Hart's new movie, Night Wolf, and all that kind of stuff. I just feel like it's inevitable. There are some other possibilities, though. So anyway, my question is for you guys. What do you think about this idea of Kevin Hart doing a superhero comedy movie, and he's not playing the superhero himself, and it's a little bit like a superhero comedy meets Meet the Parents? Personally, I like the idea. At least I'm intrigued by it. I think it could be pretty interesting. And then on top of that, who do you guys think could end up playing the father-in-law who is the secret superhero? I want to know what you guys think. Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down out of the way, let's move on to this next item off the top. As most of you guys know, there is a brand new Mortal Kombat movie coming. Now, despite everybody's excitement over who's producing it, remember, he's not directing it. This Mortal Kombat movie is going to have a first-time director with a first-time screenwriter. So that's why I'm a little bit nervous about this. Like, while everybody else is getting very excited about Mortal Kombat, I am a little bit more cautious because of those facts. First-time director, first-time screenwriter, at least the first time they're getting something of theirs made into a movie. A first-time screenwriter, fine. A first-time director, okay. A first-time screenwriter and a first-time director, that makes me a little bit nervous, but whatever. It's coming. We got Justin producing it. I'm sure it's going to have some energy to it. But a little piece of news just came out this morning that I think is absolutely fascinating. And that is that Power Rangers and Aquaman actor and good Canadian kid, ladies and gentlemen, Ludi Lin, has been cast to play Liu Kang in the new movie. Here's what comes from Variety. Chinese-Canadian actor Ludi Lin is currently in negotiations with New Line Cinema to play the role of Liu Kang in Mortal Kombat, its upcoming live-action version of the video game, Variety has learned. He was named one of Variety's 7 Asian actors to watch last year. His other recent roles included Captain Merc in last year's James Wan-directed Aquaman, and Zack, the Black Ranger in Lionsgate's 2017 Power Rangers, which I actually thought was kind of okay, to my surprise, as well as appearances in Netflix's Marco Polo and China's hit blockbuster Monster Hut. And you guys, I had a chance to meet Ludi Lin. He came into the studio once. Terrific dude. Just a terrific kid. Like, seriously, really terrific. And he was there with his mom. He brought his mom along. They're from British Columbia, Canada. Wonderful, wonderful kid. I had a really good time chatting with this dude a little bit. And I've been watching his career developing with some interest. Now, some of you guys might also remember that recently Ludi Lin's name was in the news because there was some talk that he could be Shang-Chi in the new Marvel MCU film. Now, that was never confirmed. There was never any solid report on that, but it was said it was between Down and him and one other guy. And obviously another good Canadian kid ended up getting the role of Shang-Chi. So his name's been out there. This is a kid right now who is being sought after. He is being sought after. And I'll tell you what, I couldn't be happier for him. Now, will he end up being a great Liu Kang? I don't know. I liked him in Aquaman, but we didn't really get a chance to see his acting chops in Aquaman, you know? I liked him in Power Rangers, but it's a Power Rangers movie. Can you really show off acting? I mean, Naomi Scott's in that movie, and she didn't really have the opportunity to show off her acting chops either. So I'm not quite sure how good, well, what's the ceiling for Ludi's talent? What's the ceiling? I don't know. I don't know at this point. All I know is that based on the limited sample size that I've been able to watch him, I've enjoyed him. He's a nice kid. He's easy to root for. He's clearly got the physique and the skills to play Liu Kang. I like it. So I'm down with it. Now, would Ludi Lin have been my first choice? No, maybe not. Maybe not my first choice to play the role. But he's definitely a name I'm happy to hear. And I think this will work out and work out well. Again, the question mark to me is not going to be Ludi Lin as Liu Kang. The question mark to me is, can this director deliver? Can this writer deliver? Those are still the bigger questions for me going into a Mortal Kombat movie. But I think, the casting of Ludi Lin is a step in the right direction. What do you guys think about Ludi Lin playing Liu Kang? You think it's a good move? You think it's a bad move? Are you a little bit like me saying, I like the idea, but I'm going to wait and see a little bit? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know know what you guys think about that. All right. With that stuff down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, see, it's really rather simple. You guys come up with our main topics by going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you're there, fill out the form that you see with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on the John Campea Show. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us from Levi Boyarski, who writes, "Greetings and salutations. I went to see Good Boys with pretty high expectations, and I left the theater very satisfied. I thought the kids were great, the laughs were coming in frequent waves, and it was just really enjoyable overall. Not the best comedy I've ever seen kind of movie, but entertaining for sure. What did you think about it?" All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And yes, last night, I finally took myself out to go watch Good Boys. Me and Ann went to go watch Good Boys. The trailers for this movie, I haven't enjoyed trailers to a comedy this much in probably a couple years. It's probably been a number of years since I've liked trailers for a comedy as much as I've liked the trailers and the promotion for Good Boys. Frankly, the way they've marketed Good Boys has been nothing short of genius. It's been nothing short of genius. It's not just that the Red Band trailers have been really funny. It's also like the other little stunt stuff they did with Seth Rogen. Remember where they were joke about where Seth Rogen as the producer sitting there talking to the kids. He goes, "Here's the thing, kids. You're not allowed, because of the law, you're not allowed to watch the trailer to the movie you are in." And the kids are like, "What the F? How does it make any sense?" "I know, it makes no sense. You can be in the movie, but you're not allowed to see it." I mean, even just little stunt stuff like that, I thought was really brilliant. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. The marketing campaign for Good Boys has been fantastic. So how's the movie? Well, let me put it this way. It's hilarious. The movie is hilarious. I went in expecting a lot of laughs because that's kind of what the trailer promises. The trailer promises a lot of laughs. And believe me, it delivers. And when it comes to comedy, that's the most important thing. You know, I always talk about like comedy and horror are kind of unique in the sense that those two genres, like with horror, you can do almost everything wrong in a horror movie. You can have bad characters, have questionable performances, not great direction, all that kind of stuff. But if you deliver the creeps and you deliver the scares, a lot of all the other mistakes will be forgiven. Same is true with comedy. You can do almost everything wrong in a comedy. If you deliver laughs in a comedy, all other sins are forgiven. It almost doesn't matter. Anything else almost doesn't even matter at that point. And right off the top, I got to say, Good Boys delivers. It's a comedy. Its main goal is laughs, and I was laughing myself sick. Now, they do put, some people were writing that they're a little bit worried that they may have put most of the, or at least a lot of the funniest moments of the movie in the trailer. Yeah, they do. But believe me, there are a bunch of others too. A lot of others. As a matter of fact, Ann and I were talking about it as we were walking out of the theater, and I think my two biggest laughs in the movie were not from the trailers. So that's always a good sign. That's always a good sign. Now, let me caution you. Take away the laughs. Like if you take a movie like Booksmart, which to me is still like the best movie of the year. If you take away the comedy, you are still left with a really compelling, thoughtful, heart movie filled with heart. You're still left with a pretty damn good movie. Not best movie of the year, but you're still left with a pretty damn good movie. If you go to Booksmart. If you take out the laughs from Good Boys, you're really not left with anything else. Now, there are times they try to infuse some heart into the movie. I feel like it fell kind of flat. The flow of the movie was not very natural. Like it didn't feel like a well-constructed movie. It's hard to quantify that. It didn't feel like it was a well-constructed movie that the story flowed and felt natural and all that kind of stuff. It really did feel more like a collection of really funny scenes. It felt like Seth Rogen and his team just came up with all these funny, hilarious scenarios and just built scenes around them just so they could get those funny gags in. And for a comedy, that's okay. That's totally okay for a comedy because it was hilarious. Great story? No. It was trying to infuse some heart into it. Did it succeed? In my opinion, no. They were trying for it, and I saw what they were going for. For me, it didn't quite work. It was a kind of disjointed kind of story flow, and some parts completely didn't make sense, but whatever. This is a comedy. And I don't know if I've laughed that hard in a movie this year. I don't know that I've laughed as hard in a movie this year as I did with Good Boys. A perfect overall movie? No. But if you're going just for a good, satisfying comedy and you just want to go and have some damn good laughs, Good Boys delivers. It absolutely does. Now, I saw on Rotten Tomatoes it was currently sitting around like an 80-something%, which some people thought might be a little bit higher, but I can see why there would be some people who see this and it doesn't quite work for them. Obviously, a movie like Good Boys is not for everybody. But again, for somebody like me, it crushes it when it comes to delivering the laughs. And to me, you may feel differently, and that's cool, but to me, that's the most important job of a comedy to do, and they crushed it. So while it is not a perfect movie, and while I agree with you, Levi, that it's not in the category of one of the best comedies I've ever seen in my life, because you'd like to see a comedy more fleshed out than just that, it's a damn good time. So if you are wondering about whether to go see Good Boys, all I can say is I can't guarantee you'll like it as much as I did, but I really think you should give it a shot because I had a damn good time with it. Anyway, question is, did any of you guys have a chance to see Good Boys yet? Did you like it as much as me? Did you like it more than me? Did you like it less than me? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's now move on to the second main topic today. And our second main topic today is submitted to us from Nicholas Horton, who writes, "Hi, John. Wondering if you saw that Toy Story 4 has now officially crossed the $1 billion mark. This makes the 5th movie this year that Disney has had that joined the $1 billion club, and there's probably one or two more to come in the form of Frozen 2 and Star Wars probably. I don't think Maleficent 2 is going to hit $1 billion, but you never know. How significant is this for Disney and for Toy Story in particular? And do you think it could open the door for a Toy Story 5? Thanks." All right. Thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yep, we knew it was going to happen. We saw the numbers. We knew how many international markets it still had to open into, and it did finally happen. Maybe a little bit later than I thought it would, but it finally happened. Toy Story has crossed the $1 billion mark, becoming the 5th film this year alone that Disney has put out to cross that $1 billion mark. That's insane. That's insane. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we would freak out if 3 films in 1 year, not just from one studio, but if 3 films period in 1 year joined the $1 billion club. This year, and we're only in August, Disney by itself has put out 5 films that have joined the $1 billion mark. Here's what, oh, that's the wrong one. Here's what we're getting about this. This is from Deadline, and they write the following. Disney/Pixar's Toy Story 4 has finally crossed the $1 billion mark, putting Disney in an atmosphere that no other major studio has ever touched, having 5 picks gross over $1 billion in a single year. It is projected that Frozen 2 and Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker later this year will bring that count to a mind-boggling 7 titles. Good luck to any rival in town, whoever dreams of surpassing that milestone, especially since Disney has all the goods when it comes to brands. So let's just talk about this for a second. I think there are 2 massive things for us to keep in mind and puts all this in context. 5 films in 1 year joining the $1 billion club, all from the same studio, and that number's only going to go up. I mean, if Maleficent 2 drastically overperforms, again, I don't think Maleficent 2 is going to come near $1 billion, but it might, who knows? If Maleficent 2 drastically overperforms, we theoretically could be looking at 8 films from Disney that joined the $1 billion club. That's unlikely, but 7 is certainly within the strong realm of possibility. I think it's a very strong possibility. I might even say probability that Frozen 2 is going to join that mark. And again, another very strong possibility, probably even probability, that Star Wars Episode 9 will also join that mark. You can't possibly overstate just how insane this is. But now let's move on just from the mark that Disney has set for themselves. What about Toy Story itself? there's only a handful of animated films ever that have joined the $1 billion club. And now Toy Story 4 has accomplished that feat. On top of that, Toy Story 4, I believe, I could be wrong, but I think now Toy Story is the only franchise to have 2 animated films in the $1 billion club. You know? Which is remarkable. Now, I think maybe Minions did as well, because I know Minions is in the top 5. I think Despicable Me 3 might have joined the $1 billion club. I can't remember off the top of my head. But regardless, Toy Story now has 2 of its films in the $1 billion club, which is insane. Which is absolutely insane. John, that's some very good observation and punditry. Thank you, Spoonie. And you're very handsome today. Thank you, Spoonie. Forky, sorry. Why did I say Spoonie? Because I was thinking, yes. Anyway, thank you, Forky. Anyway, it's nuts. It's crazy. Now, to the last part of your question about, could this open the door for Toy Story 5? I don't think so, and here's why. This isn't like an Aladdin situation, where I believe a lot of people at Disney were surprised that Aladdin got to $1 billion. I think there were a lot of people at Disney that were quite surprised that Aladdin got to $1 billion. I don't think there's a lot of people walking around the halls of Disney's studio lot, which is just like a 10-minute drive up the road from where I'm at right now. I don't think there's a lot of people walking around the halls of Disney right now going, what? Toy Story 4 made $1 billion? What? No. Like, I just don't think that's happening. I think this is something they probably highly expected would happen. I think they believed that Toy Story 4 would hit $1 billion mark. So I don't believe there's that surprise element. Now, if they were kind of maybe guessing and thinking that Toy Story 4 might hit $600 million and then it hits $1 billion, well, maybe that surprises them, and maybe that surprise leads them to start thinking about maybe we do another one. But the fact of the matter is, I don't think they are surprised by this. From everything we heard, this is the last Toy Story. Now, keep in mind, we also heard the same song and dance after Toy Story 3, right? Like after Toy Story 3, that was it. It was done, right? We're finished. We've wrapped up the trilogy of Toy Story. It was all done, right? And now here we are with Toy Story 4. But really, I really do think they're now wrapped up. I think they're done. I think they not only, it felt like in Toy Story 3, they wrapped up the story of Andy, which felt like the end. But now with Toy Story 4, it puts a bigger explanation or an explanation point on the ending, because it doesn't just feel like the end of Andy's story. Now, Toy Story 4, for those of you who've seen it, feels like it wraps up the story of Woody. It feels like Woody's story is now wrapped. And if Woody's story is wrapped, I think it's time to move on. So, no, I don't think Toy Story 4 joining the $1 billion club will surprise anybody at Disney, and certainly not shake them into thinking maybe they need to do another one. I think they are wrapped up on this franchise now. I fully expect to see short films and maybe some animated series and little things like that, but I do not think we're going to see Toy Story 5. I would love to be wrong about that. I would love to be incorrect about that. And I certainly have no insider Hollywood information, but I think they're done. I think they're wrapped up. Now, you might say, but you could do Toy Story 5 with, say, Buzz as the lead. Yeah, you could, but I just feel like the story's done. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. What do you guys think about that? Number one, how insane is this that we're talking about a studio putting out $5 billion films in 1 year, and there's probably more to come? And then on top of that, what do you think about that for Toy Story as a unique brand? And do you think this could open the doors for Toy Story 5? I don't personally think so. Maybe you do. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to the third main topic today. And our third main topic today gets sent in to us from Skates, who writes, Charter Cable and Disney announced they are teaming up to combat account sharing for streaming services. I'm willing to bet that the majority of people share at least one account. Either they share with others or use an account belonging to somebody else. What are your thoughts on account sharing? Do you believe people will be compelled to subscribe if sharing is made more challenging or taken away altogether, or will people just stop using those services? All right, thanks a lot for the question. And yeah, this is actually, nobody's talking about this, but I believe this is a big deal for those of us who are consumers of entertainment. I think this issue is actually a pretty big deal. So What he's talking about is this story came out where Disney and Charter, now Charter owns the Spectrum internet providing service. And for full disclosure, I am a customer of, I don't work for them, but I am a customer of Spectrum. That's whose internet I use. I use Spectrum because the United States laws regarding internet service providers are ancient and stupid and give monopolies to the internet companies, but whatever. I have no choice. I can either use Spectrum or I can use some dial-up modem. I really have no choice because that's how stupid it is here. Anyway, they are my internet service provider. So they put out an announcement together saying, yeah, they're going to be cracking down on this stuff. Now, this story comes to us from Fast Company, and they wrote the following. Charter appears to be making progress in its crusade against people who share their cable TV logins with others. As part of a new carriage agreement between Charter, which operates the Spectrum brand, and Disney, the two companies say they will work together to implement business rules and techniques to address such issues as unauthorized access and password sharing. The problem is that it's hard to restrict without inconveniencing legitimate customers, and tighter streaming limits may not even do too much to discourage sharers. In February, a survey by cordcutting.com found that 16.5% of Hulu viewers were using a login from somebody else. So you might not think off the top of your head, oh, 16.5%, that's a small number. That's not a big deal. 16.5, that's just a tiny little number. Actually, it's a very, very significant number. Imagine you had total to your name, $10,000. Total to your name. In my case, $10,000 would be 2 months living expenses. All right. It's expensive to live here in LA. Okay. So $10,000 would represent 2 months living expenses. Now imagine 16.5% of that was stolen away. And now I'm left with, well, just roughly $8,400. Now that is less than 2 months expenses. That's over 1 month expense, but it's less than 2 months living expenses. Now that's a big chunk. That's a big chunk. I know 16% doesn't sound like a big number, but it is a significant chunk. We shouldn't underestimate that. All right. What do I think about the notion of companies like Charter, like Disney, trying to crack down? Because you're right. I know people who password share for Netflix or password share for Hulu or password share their cable credentials so they can use the streaming apps of certain networks. I know people who've done that. Absolutely. What do I think about that? Well, I mean, to be honest, it is stealing. I mean, look, and I know, no, this is not the popular thing to say. I know that, but I'm never afraid to say the unpopular thing. So here we go. When somebody creates a product or a service that is meant for sale, and then you find a way to take that product or service without paying for it, that's stealing. The people providing that service or that product have done so with the intention of it being for sale, and that customers can enjoy their service or product if they pay for it. And when we find ways to circumvent paying for it and are able to just take it and enjoy that service or that product without paying the creators of it, that's stealing. Nobody likes to talk about that. And it's not the cool thing to say. It's cool to say piracy's A-okay. That's the cool thing to say. And if I wanted to be cool and be popular, that's what I would say. But the reality is, it is what it is. It is what it is. So on the one hand, I can't really blame personally. I can't blame companies like a Charter or like a Disney that's getting ready to launch their Disney Plus service. And they don't want people, just one person getting the service and sharing the password with 2 or 3 of their friends. They don't want that happening. Charter doesn't want that happening. Spectrum doesn't want that happening. So I can totally get why I would say Disney, companies like Disney and these providers are justified in trying to find ways to crack down on that stuff. I think they're justified in doing it. Is it the wise thing to do? Like it said in the Fast Company article, the challenge here is going to be that how do you find ways to do that without inconveniencing the legitimate customers, right? Like, I pay for Hulu. I have Hulu. I pay for Hulu and whatever. How can you find ways to make sure people aren't just sharing around passwords so everybody's stealing the Hulu service for free without making it cumbersome and inconvenient for me to use my legitimate usage of Hulu? And that's going to be the big challenge. That is going to be a challenge for them to do moving into the future. Now, do I think borrowing a password is amongst the great sins? No. No, I really don't. I mean, a lot of these services provide things that, hey, you can be streaming up to two different devices at the same time. Some would even say you can stream up to like 3 or 4 or 5 devices at the same time. It's almost built in where they're almost like inviting you to share your password with some people. So still, in theory, is it right? No, it's not right. But it isn't amongst the great sins. No, it's not amongst the great sins either. But again, I think there's enough there that it says that a company like Disney and Charter are justified to try to find ways just to make sure that people don't steal their product. I have no problem with that. I understand that. Now, on to the question of, do I think this will spur some people who are using borrowed passwords to then go and get the service? Yes. Do I think there are some people who are using borrowed passwords that will then just turn around and just not use the service at all? Yes. The answer to both the questions is yes. Yes, some people who borrowed passwords will then just sign up. Well, they'll bite the bullet and just sign up for the service themselves. And then there will be some people that just go, well, if I can't get Hulu for free or Netflix for free or Crackle for free or whatever it is, if I can't just get it for free, I'm just not going to get it. There will be those people as well. And I think it's going to be an even split. So I think out of those 16%, I think half of those, about 8%, will say, okay, I'll sign up for the service because I like the service and I want to get it. And then there'll be the other 8% that'll go, yeah, well, then I'm just not going to watch it at all. But still, at the end of the day, I think these companies are justified in doing it. What do you guys think about the notion of these companies just cracking down and saying, we just don't want people to steal our stuff? Is that unreasonable for them? Clearly, I don't think so, but maybe you've got some arguments as to why maybe it is unreasonable. I want to hear what you guys think about this. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's now move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us from Sooner Thrawn, who writes, so it seems finally we are getting an Obi-Wan series. I just misspelled Obi-Wan there. Anyway, on Disney Plus. If true, what do you think? Any chance they could show some of early Vader, Insidious, Empire, and Darth Maul? Could be a side story. Thanks, Campea crew. All right, thanks a lot for the question. And this is obviously the big thing that's been going around for the past, 12 hours or so. Obi-Wan is there. Now, let me preface this by saying the following. I was getting a lot of messages from you guys yesterday saying, John, did you see it's confirmed that Ewan McGregor is playing Obi-Wan? Let's back that up just a little bit. He's not confirmed to play Obi-Wan. What places like Variety have confirmed is that he is now in talks to play Obi-Wan, which tells us a couple of things. Number one, Disney is planning on doing an Obi-Wan series. And are they really going to do it without Ewan McGregor? Maybe. But just to be clear, it is not confirmed yet. There's been no official announcement as of the beginning of this recording. It's just that they're saying he's now in talks to do it. And, 85% of the time, that means he'll eventually sign on. Anyway, this is specifically what they wrote in Variety. Ewan McGregor is in talks to return as Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi in a series for Disney+. Variety has confirmed. McGregor is primarily known for his film work. He will star in the upcoming The Shining, follow-up Dr. Sleep, which I'm very, very interested in, by the way, which is due out in November. He will also play the DC villain Black Mask in the film Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Stupidest title ever, but I'm still looking forward to seeing him in that. His other notable film roles include Trainspotting, great, Moulin Rouge, one of my top 20 favorite films of all time, and Black Hawk Down, which is also great. And then I think he won a Golden Globe just recently for Fargo? Didn't he win either Golden Globe or an Emmy or something like that for Fargo? So there you have it. Obi-Wan. It looks like Disney's planning on doing it. And while it may not be confirmed yet, clearly they have plans to do it. And who are they going to do it? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? They go, oh, okay, Ewan doesn't want to do it. All right, we'll go get somebody else. They're not going to do that. And I think Ewan McGregor has made it pretty clear over the past couple of years that he's totally up for coming back and playing more Obi-Wan. He's completely up to come back and play more Obi-Wan. Now, look, I used to say for a long time, and I still say to a degree, I have no interest in prequel stuff. You know, there are exceptions, but generally speaking, I don't like prequel stuff. And a number of years ago, I said, you know what? I'm not even interested in a new Obi-Wan movie. Even with Ewan McGregor, I'm not interested in it. Now, a lot of you guys gave me some reasons why I should be open to it, and you changed my mind. A couple of years ago, you guys changed my mind on that. It's like, okay, you're right. I think I would look forward to an Obi-Wan thing with Ewan McGregor. I think there are some very, very interesting story possibilities that you can do there. Whether it's his adventures on Tatooine or maybe adventures that took him off Tatooine for a while. There's a lot you can do with a very big time period between the end of Revenge of the Sith and the beginning of Star Wars A New Hope. There's a lot of time in there. Now, we've had glimpses into what Obi-Wan's been up to when we look at Rebels and things like that. But you guys changed my mind. For a long time, I was like, no, not even an Obi-Wan thing. I just don't want any prequel garbage. Don't even want an Obi-Wan thing. And then you guys convinced me to feel differently. And now today, I'm actually all for it. Now, the interesting part to me about this was that it's a Disney Plus play. And it's understandable that it's surprising to me, but at the same time, there's some really good reasons why it shouldn't surprise me. It's understandable that I'm a little bit surprised because this is a movie franchise, right? Like Obi-Wan is movie worthy. He's beyond just a series worthy. This is truly cinematic. This is something that he should be in a movie. So on the one hand, there's that. But at the same time, I probably shouldn't be surprised because Disney has demonstrated over and over and over again that they are 100% all in on Disney Plus. They're absolutely all in on Disney Plus. So it really shouldn't surprise me that they would have the notion of doing an Obi-Wan and bringing it direct to Disney Plus. The other reason I probably shouldn't be surprised is they probably don't want to do movies anymore going backwards. They probably want their theatrical experience stuff to be all moving forward, with the exception of maybe Old Republic material, but that's so far removed from everything that's been in the current Star Wars movies that it's practically like moving forward anyway. So there's that. So I can see all that. And I got to tell you guys, I feel good about it. I really do. I mean, Ewan has consistently said he'd be down for it. He came in and did a little bit of voice work for the one line in the J.J. Abrams Star Wars movie. We know that. He was in one of the documentaries about that. That's cool. He's been down for it. I think he'll be great. And so I got to say, I'm pretty happy about it. I am pretty damn happy about this. Now, as far as do I think they'll go into Vader and Sidious and the Empire and Darth Maul? No, I hope not. Because, look, it's one thing to have Obi-Wan, because there's a lot you can do with him and all that kind of stuff. But don't just make the entire thing a rehash of everything we've already seen in Star Wars. Like, have Obi-Wan face different threats that we never knew about. Have him doing different missions that we never knew about. You got a big period of time there between the end of one movie and the beginning of another, decades of time, that he could be doing a lot of stuff. I really, really hope they don't go to the bottom of the barrel and just go, now let's bring in Darth Maul. Now let's bring in all these other things that we already know and we've already seen 1,000 times. You're going to do it with Obi-Wan, fine, but then limit it to Obi-Wan. Give us new things with Obi-Wan. All right? So I really hope they don't. Now, besides, Rebels kind of already disqualifies Maul because Rebels established that Maul didn't even know Obi-Wan was still alive. And once he did find out he was alive, he already went and encountered and engaged Obi-Wan on Tatooine and died on Tatooine in Rebels. So there's really nothing to do there. But I just really hope that other than the odd vague reference, that they just stick to Obi-Wan and then new stuff. Don't make this just recycling everything again. God, please don't be that. That's what I'm hoping. But listen, I want to know what you guys think. As a matter of fact, we're going to make that the topic of today's question of the day. And you guys can answer today's question of the day by just going to my Twitter. That's simply right there, just at John Campea. Just before the show started, I put up a poll question for you guys, simply asking that. Looks like Ewan McGregor is back as Obi-Wan for Disney Plus series. Are you happy about it, or do you think it should have been a movie instead? And you guys said right now a little over 1,500, almost 1,600 of you guys have cast a vote already. 41% of you are saying yes. This should be a Disney Plus thing. 16% of you guys are saying, no, this should be a movie. 35% of you are saying, hey, either is good. As long as we're getting Obi-Wan Kenobi, whether it's an Obi-Wan movie or an Obi-Wan Disney Plus series, we're good. We're happy with it. And only 8% of you, I actually thought there'd be more than 8%, but only 8% of you right now are saying that you're not interested either way in an Obi-Wan movie or franchise. So I want to put the question to you guys. Go on over, cast your vote there, or jump down to the comment section below and let me know. Are you excited about this news? Do you really think they should have made it a movie instead? Are you totally cool with it being a Disney Plus series? Do you think that they shouldn't even bother with this? What are you feeling about this right now? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know what you guys think. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our final main topic today. And our final main topic today is sent in to us from William Stutz Jr., who writes, Benioff and Weiss may not be as heavily involved in their own trilogy as we originally thought. The Hollywood Reporter says that Benioff and Weiss are currently writing a treatment for their new Star Wars trilogy. They claim that Benioff and Weiss are only committed to writing at least one of the films. If the Hollywood Reporter's report is true, it suggests that Benioff and Weiss, packed with Netflix, might take up a hefty chunk of their time. What are your thoughts? All right, thanks a lot for sending in that question, man. And just to be clear, here's what is specifically is being written in the report right now, because we all know Benioff and Weiss, the guys who ran Game of Thrones, made it probably the most popular and pop culturally buzzed about television show probably in television history. They're doing a series of Star Wars films. This is the report that's coming out right now. This is from Cinema Blend. Sources say that the Thrones pair is writing a treatment for a Star Wars trilogy and is committed to penning at least one of the films. The original deal was to write all three. It's unclear if the duo, who also have another feature for Fox Disney carved out, will do more than just write for Star Wars. Still, a person familiar with the Netflix deal says the streamer was briefed on their Star Wars schedule and isn't worried. It's not going to be 10 years until Netflix sees their first output, adding that Benioff and Weiss have a lot of ambition. Okay, it's not going to be 10 years until Netflix sees their first output, and that Benioff and Weiss have a lot of ambition. All right, so there's a couple of things here to keep in mind. One of the big pieces of speculation going around right now online is that, the reason they may not write all three is because now they've got this Netflix deal. Remember, they had their Star Wars deal first. You know, if you make a contract with me, okay, let's put this into context. If you have a contract with me that I will pay you $500 and you, between the months of August and November, will paint the interior of my house, right? And you and I come to a deal and we sign a contract, $500 to paint the interior of my house within the time frame of August to November, right? You can't then come to me and go, oh, hey, I just signed another contract with your next door neighbor, and now I don't have time to do the stuff I said I would do for you. Sorry, that's not how contracts work. That's not how contracts work. So it's not like this whole idea of like, oh, wait, we just got this Netflix deal. Oh, sorry, Disney, we don't have time now to write your thing. We got this other obligation. That's not how contracts work. That's why I think it was really important that in the article it points out that Netflix isn't worried about it because they knew the details of the Star Wars deal and, you know, they don't have to worry about it. So they're totally comfortable with it. They know they got to get their Star Wars stuff done first, right? So the notion that, well, if they don't write all three, it's because they don't have time because of the Netflix deal. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. So don't worry about that. The most important thing here is this, is that they are writing basically the story for all three movies. When you're writing a treatment for the trilogy, that means you are plotting out the story for all three movies, right? You're saying this is what happens in this movie, this is then what's going to happen in the second movie, and this is what's going to happen in the third movie. Now, maybe or maybe not, you write the full script around that treatment. Maybe for one or two of those films, you get another screenwriter to take your, say, 15-page treatment and the outline of all the important things that need to happen. Here's what the story's about. Here's who the characters are. This is what needs to happen in the movie. And they get another screenwriter to come in and then flesh that out and write it into a screenplay. Maybe yes, maybe no. The key thing here is that Benioff and Weiss are charting the story for the 3 films. And remember, the news right now is not saying that they are not going to be writing movies 2 and 3. It's saying that they're committed to at least writing one of them. They're writing the story for all 3, which is the most important part, in my opinion. But then right now they're committed to then fleshing out the full script for one, and maybe they'll do the second one, maybe they'll do the third one, maybe they won't. But the key thing here is that they are the ones coming up with the structure of the movie, the story, the characters, the plot, and writing the treatments, and then they'll have other screenwriters come in and flesh it out. That's key. I mean, George Lucas has done that with his Star Wars movies. So, I mean, this isn't anything new. And so if they don't end up doing the full screenplay for the other 2 films, that doesn't mean it's not their movie. It pretty much is. They're probably going to be producers on these movies as well. And if they don't write those scripts themselves, it won't be because they don't have time because of the Netflix deal. So honestly, I feel like this story is kind of much ado about nothing at this point. It really does feel like that. Like, Disney and Lucasfilm knew these guys would have other work to do as well. Netflix, when they signed their $250 million deal. How would you like to be Benioff and Weiss right now? You're coming off of the most pop culturally relevant show of all time. You have Disney offering you $150 million to come and make shows for Disney Plus. You have Comcast NBC offering you over $100 million to come and make shows for their things. And then you have Netflix comes along and makes you a $250 million offer for a 5-year deal to make shows for them. You got to be feeling pretty good right now if you're Benioff and Weiss when all the major studios all think you're the hottest thing on the block right now. That's a pretty good place to be in. Whether you like them or not is irrelevant. Whether I like them or not is irrelevant. Fact is, every single studio in town thinks they're the best, and they're offering them these ridiculous 9-figure deals to come and make content. But the important part here is that, again, Netflix knew. Netflix knew they had this pre-existing obligation to Star Wars, and they signed them to the deal anyway, knowing that they'll just get to their stuff when it's time. They'll just get to their stuff when it's time. So again, I just think the story is much ado about nothing at this point, but we'll have to wait and see. Question is, what do you think about all this? Do you think, like me, that this is really not a big deal one way or the other? Or do you think this is actually quite significant? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know what you guys think. All right, guys, with all that down and now out of the way, that's all of our main topics for today. We're going to go ahead and take live questions now for the rest of the show. But before we do, and before we get to those live questions, I'm going to take a little bit of a break here to go use the bathroom quick. I need to refill my drink and get things rolling so we can motor on for the rest of the live questions. So hang tight, guys. Thanks for being here. We will be back in 3 minutes after this short break. We'll see you in just a moment. All right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for indulging me and allowing me to take a little break there before we jump into the live questions part of our show. So now let's not waste any time, and let's dive right in to the live questions today. We're going to start things off here from Casinema Reviews, who writes, my friend kind of called this a few years ago. We were talking a potential Obi-Wan movie, and he said he'd rather see an Obi-Wan Netflix series. Well, I mean, to be fair, Casinema, your friend and about 20 million other people. Because I remember very clearly at the time. First of all, when any potential movie gets talked about today, there's always a certain percentage that goes, I think it would be better as a TV show. Which, you know, sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. But there's always a bunch of people, whenever potential movie is discussed, that say, I think it'd be better as a TV show. And sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But I remember even specifically about Obi-Wan. So yes, your friend may have said that. Yes, but your friend and 20 million other people were already saying that at the time. So I'm a little bit surprised, like I said, but maybe I shouldn't be surprised by it. Let's see how it all turns out. JB Bonifacio writes, I've boarded the Pennyworth hype train. Choo choo. You know what? I've now watched 2 episodes of Pennyworth. I'm really digging it. You know, this is yet another show that I had zero interest in. And you guys talked me into trying it. You guys are the ones who talked me into trying it. I had heard good things about it, and then you guys just started telling me, John, I'm watching Pennyworth. It's really, really good. And to my shock and surprise, I'm really digging it. Now, granted, I'm only 2 episodes in, but the 2 episodes have been pretty damn fine television. I've been really enjoying it, so I am on board as well, JB. All right, Casinema Reviews writes, 1 of 2. Rian Johnson's trilogy is still coming. Thank the Force. Criff, Star Wars version for the F word. Oversimplifying, biased The Last Jedi haters. I'm, of course, referring to the psycho 1%ers, but a lot of the times it feels like I can't even enjoy The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker trailer because all I can think of is the constant whining. Well, I mean, we'll say this about the Rian Johnson thing. I am still not 100% sold that the Rian Johnson trilogy is going to happen, to be honest with you. Now, remember, I was the first one who broke the story that all 3 of the next upcoming Star Wars films were all going to be the Benioff and Weiss films. Because remember, there was the notion that Rian Johnson's movie was going to come out, then one of the Benioff and Weiss, and then Rian Johnson, blah, blah, blah. And I was the first one to report to you guys, because I had a really good source who told me that, nope, all the next bunch of movies that are coming are all Benioff and Weiss. But I said at the time, does that mean that Rian Johnson's thing is canceled? I think it does, but we don't know that it is. We don't know that it is. Personally, I like The Last Jedi. It's probably my least favorite of the new batch of Star Wars movies, but I still prefer it more than any of the prequels. And the original 3 Star Wars films are all above all the new stuff. I mean, it's Star Wars, it's Empire Strikes Back, it's Return of the Jedi in no particular order, way up here. Then down here is all the new stuff. I love The Force Awakens. I love Rogue One. I really liked the Solo movie. I thought the Solo movie was very, very good. And then down the bottom there is The Last Jedi, which I liked, but I had issues with. Then way down below my shoe is the prequels. That's just my opinion. So I appreciated The Last Jedi. I like The Last Jedi. But I just don't see a couple things. One, I don't see why Rian would come back. I really don't. With the abuse that he took and all that kind of stuff, it's ridiculous. I don't see why he would come back. Number 2, you know, I'd be curious to see him, but I really... You know, they announced his movies long before the Benioff and Weiss ones, and then all of a sudden the Benioff and Weiss ones are coming out first. And the earliest we're going to see, if Rian Johnson's films happen, the earliest we're going to see them is like 2026, right? So I don't believe his movies are still happening. I really don't. I think at some point news is going to come out that scheduling conflicts is taking Rian Johnson off. And by the way, I'm really looking forward to his new film Knives Out. I think his new film Knives Out looks great. Other than that one really stupid Chris Evans line, what is this? CSI KFC? Other than that stupid line, it was a great trailer. I loved it. I can't wait to see that movie. But I don't believe, no matter what they say over the next year or two, I do not believe the Rian Johnson. Now, again, I have no insider information. This is just me as a fan speculating. Let's be clear. He very well could still do his movies. But I really don't believe they're going to happen. Whether they should or shouldn't is another issue altogether. I don't think they will, but we'll find out in the next couple of years. All right, DC writes, "Hey, John, hope you had a good time in Canada. I had a fabulous time in Canada. Thank you for asking. Who do you have in the Cormier, Miocic, and Khabib Poirier fights?" Well, Khabib is simply the baddest man on the planet. Khabib is just 100% the baddest man on the planet. Now, the great thing about the UFC is that anybody can beat anybody on any given day. I mean, you land one lucky punch. I mean, Matt Serra beat George St. Pierre once, for heaven's sakes, with one lucky punch. George St. Pierre later came back and kicked Matt Serra's ass, but still, Matt Serra has a win over George St. Pierre. So anybody can beat anybody, but 9 times out of 10, always take Khabib. He is the baddest man on the planet. And I'm going to take Stipe in this fight. I think he's going to land on Cormier this time. I'm going to take Stipe. I really like both Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic. I like them both very, very much. So I'm not quite sure who I'm rooting for, but I think this time Stipe will land. And when Stipe lands, people fall to the ground. And I think the same will be the same with Cormier, but it's going to be a great fight. Either way, both of those fights are going to be great fights. All right, Casinema Reviews writes, "Sorry, John, I just needed to vent about that." No problem. I get it. I understand. I really do. The venting thing. Don't apologize. Don't apologize at all. All right, Give Luigi a Ring writes, "Finally watched Creed 2. Michael B. Jordan and Sly, both so awesome. They were both great in it." Now, I liked Creed 2. I liked it very much, actually. I liked it very much. It wasn't as good as the first Creed, in my opinion. But yeah, I thought both Sly and Michael B. Jordan were both quite good in it. Darth Thanos 613 writes, "How much more do DC movies suck than Marvel movies?" Look, it's all subjective. It all depends on your point of view. Clearly, Marvel has much more success. I mean, that's beyond dispute. The most diehard of DC fans will acknowledge that Marvel's had much more success. But all film is subjective, you know? Whether you think I'm sure there are many people out there who feel that, you know, Batman versus Superman is better than any Marvel movie they've put out. And you can agree or disagree, but it's all subjective. So do I think Marvel's doing it better right now? Yeah, I think Marvel right now is doing it better, but I actually also quite enjoy it. Look, I freaking love Shazam. Love that movie. I think Man of Steel is the most underrated comic book movie of all time. I quite enjoyed Aquaman. We got Wonder Woman 84 coming out, which looks really good. So, I mean, everybody's just doing their best. Do I think Marvel's doing it a bit better than DC is right now? Yeah, I do. I think that's kind of clear. But I believe in DC more than most people do. I believe in DC more than most people do. And while some of their films have had their issues and their problems, absolutely, there's no denying it. I still count myself as a fan of DC, so, and that's just me. Okay, Edwin Martinez writes, "John, have you been to the Scum and Villainy Cantina?" No. See, I had plans once to go, and then I had a friend come back and say, actually, they don't have this and they don't have this, and it just didn't sound all that good. And then my wife went, and she said it was okay. It's all right. But like the cantina for example, the cantina at Star Wars Land at Disneyland is way better. At least according to my wife. And the people who I know who have been to both. It's significantly better according to them. So I was going to go, but then I just heard from a bunch of people it actually wasn't all that great. So I didn't go myself. All right, Fabricio Rodas writes, "I'm still try to share Disney Plus with my friend." I mean, look, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who will. Again, I don't think it is the worst of the sins. I don't. But at the same time, you know, I would encourage, ethically, I would encourage you. Like, it is stealing. Like, they created a service with the intent for sale. And if you find ways to circumvent that, you're stealing it. And I would suggest not to, but you're not the worst person in the world if you do. And I'm sure a lot of people, Fabricio, are going to be doing it as well. So I ain't going to hold it against you. All right. Jack Leo writes, "A year ago, I wrote one of my college essays about the John Campea Show." Really? "And I start film school on Tuesday. Just wanted to say thanks for all you do." Well, thank you so much, Jack. That is really cool to hear. And, you know, it is always funny. Now, unfortunately, I've never been able to do it. I get a lot of people writing to me, asking me, and it's always been surprising, if they can interview me for either a university or a high school project and things like that. Now, I don't have time to do that stuff, unfortunately, but I'm always very flattered that people ask. But to know that people are out there, not just out there watching the show, but actually out there writing papers and doing projects based on what we're doing here makes me feel very silly, actually, about, I'm freaking nobody from Canada. But anyway, that is, I take that as the highest honor, Jack. Seriously, thank you so much. And it's great to have you here. And thank you for being one of the viewers, man. I appreciate it. And thank you for the kind words. All right. William Carino writes, going off the discussion from yesterday regarding movie prices, have you heard that AMC is testing a 50 cent to $1.50 surcharge for high demand movies in some markets? No, I haven't heard that specifically right now, but William, that's nothing new. This is actually something that was discussed about 4 or 5 years ago amongst several of the big theater chain brands, from Regal, AMC, and all the way down. Their rationale, which I can see where they're coming from, is, look, in anything, the higher the demand the tickets, the higher the cost. The lower the demand the tickets, the lower the cost. If you go to, if you want to go to a baseball game in a city that always sells out the games, those tickets are going to be more expensive than if you try to go to a baseball game in another city that only ever half sells out, right? It's supply and demand. So I remember them talking about this a couple of years ago. It wasn't just AMC. It was also, like I said, Regal, Carmike, stuff like that. They were all talking about it. I don't like it, but at the same time, I can see where they're coming from. Then the question would become, what qualifies as a high demand movie? Is that going to be 5 or 6 movies a year, or will that be 30 or 40 films a year? I mean, so there's so much here that we don't know about. So I'm not going to jump up and down, whether Regal, AMC, whatever. I'm not going to jump up and down and be outraged about that until I see more information. But I'll say this, I don't blame them for investigating it. I don't blame them for looking into it. But again, these guys got to keep in mind that I think the biggest problem with the movie going experience today is the cost of going. So I think that's something they need to look into. Look, here's what I'm also all for. If you want to introduce a bit of like a 50 cent to $1 surcharge for high capacity movies, okay, then give us a discount for low capacity movies. When I go to see The Farewell tomorrow night, that theater's going to be 3/4 empty. Give me a discount. If you give me a discount on the lower attended movies, then I'm okay with you giving a little bit of a surcharge for the higher attended movies. I'm okay with that. Just balance it out. Again, I'm not going to get too wound up about it in the investigation stage. If they're testing some things out, if they're investigating, they're seeing what works and doesn't work, I don't blame them for that. I just need them to keep in mind that the cost of going to the movies is one of the big problems. And hopefully they'll find ways to, deal with that situation. But we'll see. David Linian writes, do you seriously think Disney will let Rian Johnson do his trilogy considering the fan reception of The Last Jedi? Hope you're having a great day. Well, I mean, remember, I believe more than half the fans like The Last Jedi. I mean, the cinema score, which is the only legitimate viewer score out there, the cinema score was very high for The Last Jedi. But there's also no denying that there's a lot of people that didn't like it too. There's no denying that. So do I think they would let him? See, I don't think the question is whether I think they would let him. I think the question is a combination of things. How important do they think it is to get Rian Johnson back? And then does Rian Johnson even want to do that? And personally, I don't think he's going to be back to do another one. I don't think he will. See, here's the thing. What everybody has to keep in mind is this. Bob Iger loved The Last Jedi. I've seen some people writing stories about Bob Iger didn't like The Last Jedi. I'm sorry. I stood right beside Bob Iger and watched him just gush about The Last Jedi. He loved that movie. I stood right beside him as he was talking about that movie, and he gushed about it. He liked it. And he's Bob Iger. He is the High Lord and Emperor. I'm not saying his movie tastes are any better than yours and mine, but his is the only opinion that matters. The only opinion that matters is Bob Iger's. And he loved it. So if he loves it, then yeah, I could see them wanting to bring Rian Johnson back. but that doesn't automatically mean they will. And like I said, I don't think he will. I do not think this Rian Johnson trilogy is going to happen. Whether it should or shouldn't, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's another discussion for another time. But the bottom line is, I don't think they're going to be making it. But to the pureness of your question, would Disney allow him? Yeah, I think they would. If only because the only opinion that matters is Bob Iger's, and Bob Iger liked that movie. But then again, Bob Iger's also a businessman. So I think it's going to be a combination of things, but bottom line is, I don't think he's going to be doing the new movies. I just don't think he will. He might, but I don't think he will. All right, Con L writes, Attack of the Clones is the first Star Wars film I watched. I was 5 years old. I've loved his Obi-Wan since then. I'm now 22 and never been so excited, which I think is great. Look, I always crap on the prequels. I don't like them, but there are a lot of people out there that really do, and I celebrate that. I'm never going to try to tell somebody they shouldn't like a movie that they like. And if you like the prequels, that's awesome. I celebrate that. And for a lot of people, the Obi-Wan they knew growing up wasn't the great Sir Alec Guinness. It was indeed Ewan McGregor. And the idea of seeing him come back. And by the way, as much as maybe I didn't like the prequels, I did think Ewan McGregor was a really badass Obi-Wan Kenobi. I thought he was a very good Obi, much like I also thought Liam Neeson was a great Qui-Gon Jinn. So I'm all for this. So I'm excited, Connell, that you're excited. I'm excited that you're excited. All right. Connell also writes, to see another Star Wars project, I'm 100% buying Disney Plus. I'm with you, man. I mean, look, the main reason I'm excited, look, I'm very, very big on all the upcoming Marvel stuff, but I'll be honest with you. My main motivating factor in getting Disney Plus is the Star Wars material. Even if it wasn't for the Star Wars material, I'd still be getting Disney Plus just to get the Marvel stuff. But my main motivation is Mandalorian, Cassian Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, that's pretty compelling for me. Connell also writes, think I'm the only person who loved all Star Wars. Oh, you're not, Connell. You're not. There are a lot of people out there who love the originals, love the new stuff, love the prequels. There's a lot of people out there who love all Star Wars. I'm not one of them. I don't love all Star Wars. Again, I'm not big on the prequels. I'm actually not a big fan of Clone Wars. I know everybody else is. I'm not, to be honest. Rebels, I did like overall, but it was hit and miss as well. Stuff like that. I had some issues with The Last Jedi, even though I liked it. So I'm not one of the guys who loves... I mean, Star Wars is my favorite thing in the world, but that doesn't mean I love everything about it. But you are not alone. There are a bunch of other people who like all of it. Who just like all of it, and there's nothing wrong with that. All right, David Linian writes, watching Breaking Bad for the third time with my dad, who is watching it for the first time. I think I know, but what are your thoughts on it, John? Oh, I like Breaking Bad very much. Very, very much. And you know what? Here's the thing, David. One of my favorite things to do is to watch a movie that I love with somebody who hasn't seen it yet. As a matter of fact, I think either tonight or tomorrow, or maybe Sunday, Kaori is coming over. And she hasn't seen Fighting With My Family, the one about Paige in the WWE. I was so surprised by that movie because I thought that movie was going to suck, and I really enjoyed it. And Corey came up last night. She was over here hanging out with me and Ann. And it came up that she, who is massively into wrestling, I mean, she's dating Nigel McGuinness, for heaven's sakes. So she's massively into wrestling. I was shocked to hear that she hadn't seen Fighting With My Family yet. So we've made plans that she's going to come and watch it. I love watching things that I love with people who haven't seen it yet. So the fact that you get to watch Breaking Bad again, which you clearly love, with somebody who hasn't seen it yet, your dad, that's really cool. I really, really enjoy Breaking Bad. Now, look, it's not in my top 5 favorite shows of all time. It's not in my top 5, like it is for a lot of people. But I really like that show. I loved it. All right. Either Audrey writes, one of two, weekly anime recommendation, genre, slice of life / comedy, Shunin Maid. After the sudden loss of his mom, clean freak Chihiro ends up living with his uncle and is met with garbage and dust and ends up being paid to work as a maid there after feeling compelled to clean the mansion. I like it. Sounds a little bit... What's really cool about that is it sounds a little bit like an Odd Couple kind of movie. That sounds really cool. What I really like about the sound of that, and I'm not a big anime guy, everybody knows this. What I really like about that is that does not sound like the traditional anime, either, Audrey. That doesn't sound like a traditional anime to me, which actually, to me, makes it sound quite compelling. That's a cool sounding thing. And again, I continue to get messages from people who, while I don't necessarily go and check out the anime stuff because I'm not a big anime fan, admittedly, I constantly get messages from people who are like, oh, I went and checked out that thing the person on your show recommended. I'm constantly hearing that stuff. So thank you again for the recommendation. Let me see if I can get this name right again. Shonen Maid. Is it Chihiro? Chihiro. I'm going to go with Chihiro. Ends up living with his uncle, met with garbage dust. I think that sounds really cool. Thank you again for the recommendation, either, Audrey. I know everybody else is really grateful for it as well. All right. Jose Miaz writes, Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Maul, last fight. That's spaces, my friends. Okay. Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Maul, last fight. That epic ending. If you're talking about what happened in Rebels, that was pretty epic. I did like that, although it was very short. Like, I remember, here's the thing, and I like the Rebels show very much, but it was hit and miss sometimes. There were certain seasons I liked better than others. I thought Freddie Prinze Jr., by the way, every time I watch a Rebels episode, I'm always impressed just how good Freddie Prinze Jr. was in that. Now, I made fun of Freddie Prinze Jr. a lot because we were doing our trivia battle stuff against each other. But the reality is, I still think there are some people out there who think I really despise Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sam Witwer. That couldn't be further from the truth. I love both these guys. I think both these guys are great. And I actually bought Freddie's cookbook. Freddie actually published a cookbook. I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago now, and I actually bought it, and it's wonderful. You should look it up. Anyway, I think Freddie is great in that show, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the ending, I remember the season they were going to have Maul, then the season trailer, they showed Obi-Wan and Maul fighting, and so the entire season was about this big buildup to this big final confrontation and battle between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul. And then it finally comes at like the second or third last episode of the season. It finally comes. We've been waiting all year for it. And it was like this long. I was like, Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, jing, 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 dead, done. And that was it. It's like, I waited all season for that? I had to admit, I was a little perturbed by what we actually got. But if you're talking about maybe that would be an epic ending for a Obi-Wan movie, it can't, because canon already says they already had their battle and it's already done. So probably not going to see that there if that's what you're hoping for. Zombitron 5678 writes, let's start a petition. You know how good petitions are, to get the Obi-Wan series to be called Hello There. I'm sure it'll get enough signatures. LOL. So clearly you're joking around there. Hello there, my little friend. Anyway, yeah. I tell you what, petitions are the dumbest thing. Now, for real world issues, petitions I'm all for them. But for movie things related, I want to start a petition because I don't like that they cast that guy. People do, like, there's very few less constructive things you can do with your time than doing movie related petitions. Very few less. It's more productive to try to milk a bull. I think you'll get more luck doing that than anything. Anyway, so thanks for that, Zombitron. Anyway, the pop culture crotcheter writes, I like the name. A Pokemon novice. I rented Detective Pikachu, not expecting much, and that stupid yellow Muppet made me cry twice. Sometimes it's the movies you least expect. It's true. It's absolutely true. Sometimes it really is the movies you least expect that really gets you. Now, I will admit, I wasn't the biggest fan of Detective Pikachu. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. They certainly did some things well in it, but overall I thought it had a lot of issues. So I wasn't a huge fan of Detective Pikachu. I didn't think it was garbage or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. I didn't think it was terrible. I just wasn't the biggest fan of it. Still, it is kind of cool that it's these little things, sometimes it's these movies or shows that you go into with little or no expectations, and then you have a tremendous experience with it. And that just makes it all the more rewarding, I think. You know, I mean, that was me with Booksmart this year. There's certainly been others that I've gone into a movie and like, very little expectations, and what the hell, that was so good, and be so impressed with it. It's always good when those things can happen. It's always good. And if Detective Pikachu was one of those for you, pop culture, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Okay. Giovanni Monterosa writes, it's my birthday. Happy birthday, Giovanni. Will Toy Story 4 get Oscar love? Well, it's definitely going to get a nomination for Best Animated Picture. I mean, that's no doubt. No doubt. Right now, I can't see how it doesn't win Best Animated at the moment. To me, right now, it's a foregone conclusion that it wins Best Animated. Will it get Oscar love as far as Best Picture goes? I'm not sure. Because, I mean, Toy Story 3 got nominated for Best Picture. I don't think Toy Story 4 is quite as good as Toy Story 3, but there's an outside possibility. There's an outside possibility, but definitely for the animated category. So you'll hear Toy Story 4's name one way or the other mentioned when it comes to Oscar time. All right. The Hero writes, hey, John, Dumb and Dumber's ending crossed my mind. Something we don't really see is taking the character's payoff away. That bus of babes, too funny. Well, yes, that was a great ending. But then again, Dumb and Dumber is not your quintessential hero villain kind of movie, right? I mean, whether it's the hot sauce or whether it's the pepper spray, heart medication, laxatives, whatever, you had 2 pairs of gloves. Whatever it is such an unconventional movie in every single way. When you look at that original Dumb and Dumber, it is so unconventional in so many ways. I mean, because the heroes do some truly stupid and dumb things. And it breaks all sorts of conventions in the way it does it. So I'm not really surprised the ending. It's still one of the great comedies ever. Dumb and Dumber, and by the way, this came up the other day. I like the sequel. Not When Harry Met Lloyd, not that, but the real sequel. I really like the sequel. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I don't care. I thought the sequel, not as good as the original, clearly, but I really like the sequel too. Carter writes, David Oyelowo as Professor X, Denzel Washington as Magneto. Hey, 2 great actors. Why not? The one thing I would not like about that pairing is that there's a pretty big age difference between the two. There's a pretty big age difference between the two. So let me just look this up here. David Oyelowo. He is 43, whereas Denzel is 64. So there's over 20 years age difference between the two of them. And I think they really should be contemporaries of each other. So while I like both those actors very, very much, I think you got to get 2 actors that are closer in age, because that's a key essential element, that these guys were best friends. And I think they don't have to be the exact same age, but they got to at least be contemporary of each other. So that would be the only caution I would have about that casting. But David is a fabulous actor. Denzel is one of the best the world's ever seen, obviously. But I just think you'd have to get 2 guys who are a little bit closer in age. All right. Chris Parsons writes, Snipes as Dracula would be a hell of a cameo. No, honestly, I disagree. I think it would be very silly and shticky. And while it sounds funny as a gag, if you're talking about the new the new Blade movie, I actually think it would be shticky and distracting and silly. So I don't think it would be a good, personally, Chris, just personally, I don't think it would be very good at all. I think it would be just distracting and take away from the film. I think it would take away from the film. All right. Orakusaki writes, I used to go 2 times a week and 8 times in a month to Regal, while ticket prices... okay, look, I'm just going to tell you right now, dude, moving forward, if you don't write the comment, all due respect, if you don't write your comment properly, I'm just going to skip it moving forward, okay? Because it's unfair to me, and it's unfair to everybody else who has to sit there as I try to struggle through reading what it is you're writing. So please, in the future, I'm just asking you now, I'm requesting in the future that you just write your comments out normally, or else I'm going to skip them moving forward, because it's a little bit frustrating. Anyway, let's get through these ones. All right. While ticket prices was $15, so I was spending $120 a month watching movies at Regal Unlimited, and Regal Unlimited is saving me money a lot, and it is worth worthy 100%. Well, no, that's what I've been saying. Like when Regal Unlimited, the plan for Regal Unlimited came out, a lot of people were complaining about, well, it's not as good as AMC's A-list plan. No, it's not. It's not. The AMC A-list plan is a little bit better. Yes. But that does not mean that the Regal plan isn't great. The Regal plan is great. They do a few little things like their surcharges and all that I'm not a big fan of, but overall, that's the bottom line. If you go to more than a couple of movies a month, you will save money using a Regal Unlimited card. And if you go a lot, the more you go, the more money you save. I mean, so yes, not as good as AMC A-list, but guess what? Not everybody lives beside an AMC theater, and this Regal plan is still great. It's a great plan. And a lot of people complain about the Cinemark Movie Club plan. And I'm like, I'm sorry, does Cinemark's Movie Club plan not save you money? Yes, it does save you money. But it's not as good as AMC's plan. I know it's not as good as AMC, but who cares? It's saving you money. It's a good plan. Then the more you go, the more money you actually save. It's a good plan. Not as good as AMC's, and it's not as good as Regal's either, but it's a good plan. And so if you only live near a Cinemark theater, it's a good option. It's a good option. I think these are good times. These are great things. I think, like I've said for a long time, I think AMC A-list is the best thing to happen to movie fans in a long time. I think it's the best thing to happen to movie fans in a long time, particularly those of us who go to more than 2 movies a month, or at least 2 movies a month. And Regal, I think, just adds to that. So it's a good plan. I agree. All right. Ora Kusaki also follows up with, while AMC had A-list, their theaters around my city are still antiquated with old, uncomfortable seats, and that's why I would never bother with them at all. Fair point. All Regals around me are the only ones with leather recliner seats. See, and that's another thing to keep in consideration, because like where I live, the AMC theaters where I live are all leather recliners. Leather recliner. I mean, at the AMC Burbank 16, some of the theaters inside are leather recliners, some are more traditional seating, but they're really good theaters. But the AMC 6 and the AMC 8 that are also just both within a 15-minute walk of where I live, all the theaters inside leather recliners. Not as much with Regal theaters around me, but it all depends on where you live. And I think you bring up a really good point. If I'm living beside a Regal and an AMC theater, and one has all the new leather recliners, seating experience, and all that kind of stuff, and one doesn't, I'm probably going to get the membership to the one that gives me the more enjoyable movie-going experience, even if one costs me a few extra dollars. Like the Regal one will cost you a few extra dollars than the AMC one. Worth it, though. Totally worth it. But again, it all depends on where you live and which theaters you have around you. It's a good point to bring up. Okay. Edgar Navarro writes, I saw The Farewell, and boy, that sucked. I saw Dora, and it was better, and I also saw Good Boys, which is great. Really disappointed about The Farewell. I got to tell you, Edgar, you are the first person, and I'm not exaggerating here, you are the first person I've heard say they didn't, not just like, you're the first person I've heard say they didn't love The Farewell, and I haven't seen it yet myself. But everybody else who has commented to me about The Farewell loves it. A lot of them saying maybe best film of the year. Again, I haven't seen it yet myself. I have no plan on seeing Dora, but Good Boys was very, very funny. Very, very funny. Not a great overall movie, but as a comedy, forget about it. It's really funny. If you're just looking to go in and laugh for a good, and by the way, perfect runtime. To me, comedy, like pure comedies, 90 minutes is the magic spot. Now, some comedies should be longer depending on their stories or whatever, but generally speaking, and there are exceptions, but generally speaking, I think the 90-minute mark is like a perfect mark for a good comedy because it never started to get old and it never started to feel like the gimmick was wearing off. At 90 minutes, nice and crisp, lots of good laughs. Very well planned out, in my opinion. All right, thanks for sharing your opinion on that stuff, Edgar. All right. Orik Usaki also follows up with, that's why I was always no ring. That's why I was always ignoring AMC, even though A-List was really tempting. But at the end of the day, I was happy with Regal. Plus, Regal is 10 minutes from home and 5 blocks away from work. So it's a win-win for me. Again, and that all goes to what we were talking about how, you know, your individual circumstance will be different from person to person. It's not just who's got the better movie plan, A-List or Regal Unlimited, but which theater is more convenient for you, which one is closer, which one gives you the better viewing experience. These are all things you got to keep in mind when you're trying to evaluate and plan out how you're going to spend your dollars. But at the bottom line for me is this: A-List is a win for movie fans, and Regal Unlimited, even though it's a stupid name for their program because it's not unlimited, but Regal Unlimited is also a win for movie fans. So it's more than just about which one costs me less. It's about which one is more convenient, which one will you be able to take advantage of more, and which one gives you the better overall movie-going experience. And that will be different from city to city. If you live where I live, the AMC theater is the better experience. If you live near where you live, clearly it sounds like the Regal is the better experience. So it's all these factors you got to take into mind, you got to take into account when planning out your strategy about which movie membership to sign up for. This is a good observation. All right. Victor Gonzalez writes, "That's it. I've had it with this damn petitions. So I'm starting my own petitions to end all petitions." Don't laugh, Victor. I actually did that once. About a year ago, I started a petition to end petitions. Obviously, my petition failed. It's failed because there are still these stupid petitions coming out. I hate movie petitions. Hate them. They're dumb. They're stupid. Don't do them. Anyway, Ryan Lohner writes, "More Ewan as Obi-Wan? I think someone just fixed..." I get it. I think someone just flexed the wrong muscle. Okay, some of you guys don't get that. That is a reference to Doom Patrol, one of the funniest moments I've seen in a TV show in a long time. I think someone just flexed. And those of you who have seen Doom Patrol, you know exactly what Ryan is talking about. Very well said, Ryan. Very well said. I like that. All right. Jonathan Thurmond writes, "I recently watched Swamp Thing. I thought it was the best of the DC shows. Do you think you might give it a watch?" Yeah, I think at some point I will. I mean, I was quite actively looking forward to it until I heard that they canceled the show after the first episode. Then I was like, oh, and just, I'm not saying it's right that I feel this way. I'm not saying it's wrong, but that just killed my enthusiasm for the show. You know, they come out, they have one episode, and they cancel the series after one episode. So it's like, well, if you're going to crap all over your show, why should I be excited about watching it? You know what I mean? It killed my enthusiasm. But like you, Jonathan, I've heard from other people that they really did quite like Swamp Thing. Best of the DC shows, like better than Doom Patrol? I'll believe that when I see it. But I am hearing a lot of good things. So yeah, I think at some point, I got a few other things I got to get caught up on first, though, to be honest with you. I want to get caught up on Pennyworth. I still haven't watched Krypton Season 2, and I want to get up to speed on that. But at some point, I do need to check out Swamp Thing. Because I still have my DC account. I still have my DC streaming account. So I got to get on there at some point and watch Swamp Thing. It's hard to get excited about it, knowing that they canceled it after one episode and there's not going to be any more. So, whatever. Anyway, I'll check it out at some point. I'm not sure when, but at some point, Jonathan, I do think I'll check it out. All right. Aaron Moen writes, "Are there any movie quotes you frequently use in day-to-day life? I tend to say, so let's go from don't mess with the Zohan a lot." I mean, I've got a bad feeling about this from Star Wars. Not every single day, but at least a couple times a week, I say it's true from a certain point of view. I mean, that comes out of also another Star Wars one. But they're normally Star Wars ones. I'm sure there's probably a few others too that probably come out as well. Let It Go, as a Frozen quote, that'll come out once in a while too. But normally I find it's Star Wars ones, particularly I've got a bad feeling about this. That's one that probably comes out more than any other one. All right, that's an interesting question. I like that. And so let's go from don't mess with the Zohan. That was a horrible movie that had some really funny moments. You know, every once in a while there's a really terrible movie, but you got to go, but oh my God, there are a few places in that movie that even if you're not liking the movie itself, you find yourself laughing pretty hard. Zohan was always one of those movies to me with Adam Sandler. Anyway, Willow Yang writes, Have you read any of the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books? No. The Red Spot story sounds like Aaron's worst nightmare. Well, if it's got spiders in it. Here's the thing, Willow. Aaron Cummings, who's on this show a couple times a week. I adore Aaron. Actually, I think I'm going to go over to her house today to help her set some stuff up. Anyway. She is so, and I'm not, this is not an exaggeration. I'm telling you right now, you're going to think I'm joking. I'm not. This is not an exaggeration. She is so terrified of spiders that even if she was here right now and just saw that little icon, that little spider icon there, she would freak out and turn away from the screen. I'm not kidding. I've never seen anybody as I know a lot of people who are afraid of spiders. I've never seen anybody who is so vehemently terrified of spiders as she is. Like, completely. I'm telling you, even if she just saw that little image, she would freak out. And I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding in the least. It's that bad. It is that bad. Amin writes, don't know if this is a bold prediction, but I predict that the Joker film will be nominated for both Best Picture and Best Lead Actor at the Oscars. Well, look, you're right. It's not a bold prediction, but it's true. A lot of things are pointing that way. You know, somebody was asking me the other day, and I haven't been able to verify this, but, you know, like one of the co-heads of the Toronto International Film Festival, one of the most prestigious film festivals in the world, just called, and Joker is going to be playing at it, just called it a masterpiece. Just called Joker a masterpiece. This little DC comic book character movie, calling it a masterpiece. And look, if you're going to get a guy of the reputation and the quality level of a Joaquin Phoenix to sign up for it, you know it's got to have something to it. So, I agree. It's not that bold of a prediction. Who knows, though? Who knows? I know that I have been excited for this movie since the day they announced it. I like everything about it. The fact that it's standalone, the fact that it's not in a shared cinematic universe, and the fact that it's about one of the great comic villains of all time, and you got one of the great actors of our age in Joaquin Phoenix playing the lead. To me, there is nothing not to love about this. Now, the movie may suck. It might. Let's admit it. It might suck. But I think there's a lot of reasons right now to be optimistic. So, yeah, I agree with you, man. I don't think it's that bold. I think there's a very decent possibility that we could hear about the second comic book movie of all time being nominated for Best Picture. So let's wait and see. Ryan Lohner writes, Apocalypse Now is 40 years old today. Unbelievable. I still wonder what George Lucas's version would have looked like. See, a lot of people forget that. You know, George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola at that time, were doing all their film stuff. They had created this film collective at the time. And yeah, I mean, I, as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I believe there were parts of Apocalypse Now that Lucas did direct, either as a second unit director or he just took over certain scenes for, if I could be wrong about that, but I think there are parts of that he did. But that is crazy, Ryan, to think about that. It's a 40-year-old movie. Although, unlike some other movies where you go, wait a minute, that's 20 years old? Apocalypse Now does feel like an old film. But it's still kind of funny when you think it's 4 decades at this point. That is nuts. All right. James Lockman sends in a really generous super chat. Thank you, James, for supporting the channel on that level, man. I appreciate that. Aloha, John. Love your show. Thank you so much, James. And aloha to you as well. When there's no John Campea show, my day doesn't feel right. So welcome back. It's good to be back, my friend. I watched Booksmart, and I gotta say it was great. I haven't laughed that much in a long time. Yeah, I still think right now, if pressed, I would still say that I think Booksmart is the best movie of the year. It is a better, like, I also say this. I had more laughs in Good Boys. But overall, I think Booksmart is a very superior movie to Good Boys, although Good Boys has more laughs. They're both great. You're going to enjoy them both. I'm so happy with both of them. But Booksmart's a really special movie. And considering it was Olivia Wilde's first directorial effort, that's crazy. I thought that movie was loaded with heart, and it was very effective. And you just got into the characters, and you believed the characters, and you bought into their worlds and their struggles and the laughs. It's certainly a hilarious movie, but it's just overall such a magnificent, magnificent film. It's just a really special movie. Now, all film is subjective. Look, I can't tell you that if you go and watch it for the first time that you're going to think it's the best movie of the year too. It's subjective. You may like it, you may not like it. But I know for me, I walked out of the theater and I was just like, what was that? That was amazing. Like, I was so overwhelmed by it. It's a truly special movie. And again, it's just highlighted and is punctuated by the fact that it was by a first-time director, which is absolutely nuts. Anyway, James, again, thank you for sending in the super chat and supporting the channel on that level. I appreciate it, and I'm glad you liked the movie because I know I freaking loved it too, my friend. All right. Go So Fly writes, "Hey John, my dad Richard and I watch your show all the time." That's awesome, thank you. "And today is his 50th birthday. Well, happy birthday to your dad, Richard. Thank you for watching the show, and I hope you have a great birthday, man. I'm doing this super chat for him. We both love your show. Thank you so much. And again, happiest of birthdays to you. 50th is a great birthday. I hope you have a great one, and may you have a fabulous year ahead of you. And how cool is that you're sending that in to say happy birthday to your dad? That is awesome, and I'm so grateful that both of you watch the show. And welcome here, and thanks for being a part of the film fan community, my friends. And again, happy birthday. All right, JCL Productions writes, "When you come back to Canada after you have a kid, will the John Campea Show still exist?" It better. It freaking better. I'm 7 years in, man. Well, first of all, JCL, thank you for being around for 7 years. That's awesome. Yeah, at some point, Ann and I will move to Canada. At some point. The nice thing about not having any corporate overlords that I work for and working for myself is that I can literally do this job from anywhere. I mean, the fact that I really don't go to press screenings hardly ever anymore. I'll make the odd exception, but for the most part, I'm not really interested in going to press screenings all that much. Even just re-emphasize the fact that I don't need to be in LA to do this job. I don't need to be in LA to do this job. I can do this job from anywhere. And I started my career from Canada. I started the movie blog. I did the movie blog for years from Canada. So yeah, when I move home, it may be the John Campea Show. It may be something else. But just as I've always had, the movie blog, had the audio podcast, I had AMC Movie Talk, I had that other thing, whatever. There will, in one way, shape, or form, the John Campea Show, or a variation of it in some incarnation, as I have in the past, will be around. And again, it's one of the great things about doing what I do, working for myself, working from home. I mean, that's another big advantage to having my studio in my house. You set up a little studio in your house, and all I need to do when I move around is I just need to make sure I find a place that has a big enough space in it somewhere that I can set up a little studio and do my thing. Make sure I have fast enough internet, and I can do it from anywhere. So yes, absolutely, the John Campea Show, even whenever I move to Canada, in one incarnation or another, will still be around. And thanks for being around for 7 years, JCL. I appreciate that, man. All right, Joel Short writes, "Picard or Kirk?" Picard. I love me some James T. Kirk. Love me some James T. Kirk. But Picard is just like the ultimate captain. He's just the ultimate captain. I'm more of a Picard guy, even though I love Kirk. JCL Productions writes, "How did you meet Jonathan and Ray? Did you guys like each other? Did Ray ever have the talk with you when he found out you were dating his sister?" Well, I met Ray obviously through Anne. So that's how I met Ray, clearly. Did he ever have a talk with me? No, for a couple of reasons. Number one, I am bigger than Ray. Number two is that by the time I met Ray, Ann and I were already pretty serious. And we had been together for a number of months already. So I think there was more of a fear on Ray's side of Ann, because you don't want to cross Ann. Oh, Ann looks sweet. Oh, Ann is so pretty. And she looks so sweet, but she is 105 pounds of Filipina fury that you do not want to get on the wrong side of. And Ray knows that better than anybody. So I think by the time he met me, there was already an understanding, probably from Ann, of you better not F this up for me. And there was probably that. But I've always liked Ray. Ray is honestly, I wish I could talk this kid into being on camera more. I wish I could talk Ray, not kid, he's Ann's big brother, but I wish I could talk Ray into getting on camera more, because he's legitimately, Ray's one of the funniest guys I know. Oh my God. we were all in Niagara Falls. Me and our buddy Ryan. He's the guy who everybody always asks if that's Ben Affleck in my pictures. That's our buddy Ryan. And Ray, Ryan, and Ann have been literally friends since childhood. Like since childhood. They all grew up together. And so Ryan came with us to Canada. Ray came with us to Canada. Ann, obviously. And we were driving back from Niagara Falls. And we just started, when Ray starts talking, I can laugh myself sick. He's seriously one of the funniest guys I've ever known. Anyway, as far as Jonathan goes, I met Jonathan when Dennis and I, when we were doing AMC. It's in relatively early, not the early days of AMC, but relatively early. And Dennis was at the point we were doing enough stuff now that Dennis realized he needed some help on the production end. And so we were looking to hire a production person. We posted a job for it. And Jonathan Voico came in to apply for the job. And this is going back, I guess, 6-7 years now. Maybe 6 years. Pardon me, maybe 6 years. Anyway, this guy, Jonathan Voico, comes in. And he's been working with me ever since. Jonathan's great. I liked him from day one. I liked Jonathan from day one. And I have never stopped liking him. He's just always been incredibly loyal. He's always been incredibly reliable. And so when I found out that he was available again, when I found out that they were available again, because they worked with me at my previous place and then they weren't with them anymore, I immediately hired them. And I'll be honest with you, there have been times when I haven't even really needed them, but I wanted them around because they're both great. And but that's how I met both of them. Thank you for asking, JCL. Jonathan Emir Singleton writes, double feature today of Good Boys and Scary Stories with my brother. Thank you, A-List, and thank you, John and crew, for getting me through work every day. Well, that sounds fun. I haven't seen Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I probably am not going to go see it. Like, I don't have a lot of interest in it, nor do I have interest in Dora myself. But I think you're going to enjoy Good Boys. And isn't it great to have a Regal Unlimited, or in this case, like you and I have, an AMC A-List that you can go and do that sort of stuff. So that's awesome. So, John, thank you for letting us be a part of your day. Thank you for the honor and privilege of letting us be a part of your day. And thank you for being part of our film fan community, man. And enjoy the movies, have a good time, and make sure you drop a note and let people know. Jump in the comments section later after you see the movie and let people know what you thought about your double feature. So that would be good to hear. All right, next up, K Major writes, hey, John, just rewatched both Godzilla films, and I gotta say, they better write one hell of a story to explain how Kong goes toe-to-toe with the King. Let's pray for no stupid human storyline this time. See, I don't mind human storyline. Just don't make it a terrible human storyline. That was my problem with Godzilla King of the Monsters. It's not that they had human story, it's that they had bad human story. That's the part that bothered me. It's fine if you want to put in a good, solid narrative involving the humans, but make it watchable. The human stuff was gibberish in King of the Monsters. Now, as far as Kong goes, keep this in mind, K Major. They have said multiple times, the producers, because it's like, how can Kong fight Godzilla? Like, Godzilla's twice his size. Remember that they've reminded us numerous times, the producers have reminded us that in Kong Skull Island, that was not a full-grown Kong. That was still to them, a relatively young King Kong. So I expect by the time we get to Kong versus Godzilla, we're going to see a significantly larger Kong. And that will then become a fight. How can he fight him? Well, just go back to those T-Rex fights, man. To me, that was the best part of the Godzilla. Well, actually, if you go back to the Godzilla, to the King Kong movie, I should say, that Peter Jackson did, oh my God, the T-Rex. I'm not a huge fan of that King Kong movie, but the T-Rex fights were so bloody good. But also, you look at him fighting monsters to his comparable size, he's formidable. Kong is formidable. And if we have a Kong that's roughly the same size, or at least in the same ballpark as Godzilla, that's going to be a good fight. That's going to be a good fight. So we'll see how it goes. And again, I'm all cool with the human storyline. Just make it good. Just make it good. I know that's easier said than done, but that's important. You got to make it good. That is key and that is important. All right. K Major also follows up and writes, Do you read the Star Wars comic volumes? I read volumes 1 through 7, and my whole takeaway was not everything needs an explanation. Maybe it's just me. No. One of my big problems with, and it's not just Star Wars, it's a lot of franchises, is that not everything needs to be explained. We don't need to know everything. There are advantages and benefits to leaving some mystery, right? I completely agree with you on that. Now, I actually stopped reading the Star Wars comics. When the Star Wars comics started to come out under this new everything is canon stuff under Disney, right? I picked up a bunch of them, but I was not thrilled with them. But more importantly was this. I was paying like $6 for an issue, and I timed it once. I remember me and Christian Harloff were together, and I timed myself, and I wasn't trying to rush. I timed myself. How long does it take me to read at just a normal pace, read this comic book? And it took me like 7 minutes to get through all 20 whatever pages. And I remember thinking, $5 or $6 for 7 minutes of entertainment? That's almost $1 a minute. If I had to pay that for a movie, I'd be paying $120 for a ticket to go see a movie for a minute of entertainment. Now, look, I'm not trying to undermine. Look, it costs money to make comic books. I get it, and you got to charge. But I just remember I'm not into these enough, to these particular stories enough, that I feel like I want to every month pay like $30 or $40 to get like 7 minutes of entertainment for one issue. So I kind of, to be honest with you, as much as I love Star Wars, I kind of gave up on it. And I also started, like, when they started this whole everything is canon thing, which isn't really true anymore, but everything is canon, I was reading all the Star Wars novels that came out, and then I realized there's just too many of them that I didn't think were all that good. There are some of them that are exceptional, right? There are some of them like Lords of the Sith, Tarkin, Lost Stars. Some of them are fantastic, but I became a lot more picky about which ones I did. By the way, I'm just halfway through right now the new Tarkin novel, Tarkin Treason. Not Tarkin novel, sorry, a Thrawn novel. Thrawn Treason, it's called. And I'm enjoying it. But yeah, I really kind of ditched reading the comic books on them, to be honest with you. Christopher Cadwell Jacques writes, "Hey, John, how do you watch Pat's games while cord cutting? In Central Illinois, you can only get Sunday Ticket if you subscribe to the actual DirecTV. There are other ways you can get or you can get Sunday Ticket, but on top of that, as a cord cutter, I have YouTube TV. And most Sundays, not all, but most Sundays I can find a Pats game. And on the rare time I can't find a Pats game, I find one of the streaming services might be carrying it as well. Like NFL.com might stream a game or something like that. So I don't get to watch every single Pats game, but I find just through that combination of stuff, even without Sunday Ticket, I'm able to watch most of them. But I would double check again, because there are other services and other ways. Maybe that was true one time, Christopher. I would encourage you to research it a little bit more right now, because I think there are other ways. I think they've expanded the number of ways you can subscribe to Sunday Ticket if you want it. And I think I'm going to get it this year. Anyway, good luck on that. And go Pats go. I don't think this is going to be their best year, but go Pats go. Okay, Marie Seifring writes, how long do you see Drew Brees remaining in the NFL? Honestly, I think this is going to be his last year. I haven't heard that from anybody. I think this will be Drew Brees' last year. I think he's going to play this year, see that his team is not as good as it's been the last couple of years, and it's not likely to be better next year either, and think, you know what? I got all the money in the world. I'm a king in New Orleans. I am a king for life. I am a king in New Orleans. I brought a Super Bowl here. I've given them MVP level years. I've given them record shattering kinds of years. I will be a king for the rest of my life. Me and my family will be royalty in this city for the rest of my life. I think he's going to go out while he's still on top. So I'm guessing this will be his last year. And what a great quarterback. I love Drew Brees. Slim Trav writes, over under 25% Hobbs and Shaw cameos appear in Fast 9 or 10. Under. I'm not going to say zero, but but I will take well under 20, understanding all the drama that's going on right now, I will take well under 25%. There might be name drops, but I don't think you're going to see them at all. So I'm going to go way under 25% on that. Rodrigo Ortiz writes, just saw The Punisher Dirty Laundry. That's a nice little short with Thomas Jane. And I got to say, what a fun little YouTube project. It really is. It's a good little YouTube movie. If you guys have not seen it, it's just a few minutes long. I highly recommend go checking out Dirty Laundry. Just search on YouTube, Dirty Laundry Punisher. And it's actually got the original Punisher in there, Thomas Jane, in this great little short film on YouTube. It's very enjoyable. I'm glad you liked it, Rodrigo, because I got a kick out of it too. All right, Marie Seifring writes, do you think Breeze, who is 40, or Brady, 42, can break Favre's record of retiring at 45? Or going way back, quarterback George Blanda, who retired at 48 years old? I know Brady has said he thinks he can play till he's 45, but honestly, I think this might be his last season too. Because I don't think, without Gronk, they've not replaced him at tight end. They don't have a legitimate wide receiver weapon at this point. I mean, they still got some of their tools. They got Edelman still. They've got some legitimate tools. But I think Brady is just so used to being able to win so consistently. And I don't think they're going to do that this year. The Patriots, in my opinion, are not getting to the Super Bowl this year. And I'll tell you what else. Even though they're not in the strongest division, I think whether they win the division is even in question this year. And I think when you get a guy like Brady, who is just so used to operating on such a high level, I think him and Breeze both might call it quits after this year. I really do. So I don't think either of them will make it to 45. I know Brady has said he'd like to play till he's 45, but I don't think he's going to make it. I don't. I think this might be the last season for both of them. So we'll see. We'll see. Now watch. 8 months from now, we're talking about the Pats winning another Super Bowl. But anyway, for now, I think this might be both of their last years. We'll see, though. Jahan Bagwagar writes, what did you prefer, The Boys or Doom Patrol? Doom Patrol. I love The Boys. Don't get me wrong. I think The Boys is great. I was so pleasantly surprised by it. I love it. I think it's fantastic. But I think Doom Patrol is better. By that much. It deals with much deeper issues, and it actually finds a way to take real, relevant, deep issues and address them in fun, sarcastic, different types of ways. I mean, it's remarkable, the different issues of mental health, issues of hatred, issues of discrimination. They do all that sort of stuff, all within the shell of this fun, quirky, irreverent, wacky, off-the-wall superhero show. It just, to me, is the better show. But I love me some Boys, too. The Boys was great. I enjoyed that a lot as well. All right. Patrick Clare writes, where is Joshua Jackson? It's been a while since I saw him in anything relevant. I loved him in Fringe and Dawson's Creek. Don't you think he is a good actor? I don't understand why he isn't cast for big movies. Let's put it this way. I like Joshua Jackson. I enjoyed him in Fringe. And were I to hear that he was cast in an upcoming movie that I'm looking forward to, I would think that's pretty decent news. But do I think he is a great actor and that I'm scratching my head that he's not in more things? I don't know that I'm there yet. I think he's a serviceable actor. And again, I actually did enjoy him in Fringe quite a bit, but whatever. And by the way, he has been keeping busy. I know he had a role in When They See Us. He was in that. And he's also in The Affair. So it's not like he hasn't been working. Actually, let me bring this up here for a second. Let me just see if I can find him here. Joshua Jackson. Okay, hold on a second. Yeah, he was just in When They See Us. He was in, he's in The Affair. That's been keeping him very busy. And he's got a new miniseries that he's filming called Little Fires Everywhere. I don't know much about who else is in that. Let me just look this up. He's got a miniseries that he's currently filming called that. It's got Rosemary DeWitt in it, Gavin Lewis, Jamie Ray Newman, Megan Scott. So he's got that coming up as well. So he's staying busy, but I'll be honest, I don't look at Joshua Jackson and think movie star. I don't personally see it, but I also have no problem with the dude. If he was, like I said, if I found out he got cast in a Star Wars movie or a Marvel movie or a new Mission Impossible or something like that, I go, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't be against it at all. But would he be in my top 10 list for anything like that? Probably not, but I like the guy. I like him. I think he's good. All right, Sharon Carter writes, if Hayden returns as Anakin in a spin-off film that takes place right after Episode 3, leading to Rogue One, with James Wan directing, would you be excited? Probably not. Now look, the reality here, Sharon, is this. If it's a Star Wars movie, I'm interested. If it's a Star Wars film, I'm interested. Would I be excited about such a thing? No. Number one, I'm not big on prequel stuff in general. Rogue One was a little bit different because it was dealing with characters and stories that had never been explored and all that kind of stuff. So it was a little bit of a difference. To see a Hayden return as Anakin in a spin-off that takes place after Episode 3, which is difficult because he's, I don't know. So basically a Vader movie. Leading, nah. Intrigued? Maybe. Interested? To a degree. Excited? Probably not. But I'll still be there opening day because it's a Star Wars movie. But as far as potential of things you could do with a Star Wars film, that's not high on the list. That's not high on the list for me. So, anyway, that's just me. Ben Rayner writes, Denzel for father-in-law would be awesome in Nighthawk. That's another good one. Denzel. Would love to see Denzel in a comedy. That's a good one too, because I was saying, for those of you who forget what we're talking about, of course, at the beginning of the show, we talked about Kevin Hart's got that Nightwolf movie coming. That's a superhero comedy that's a mix between a superhero movie and Meet the Parents, where Kevin Hart meets his fiance's parents to find out that his fiance's dad is actually a legitimate superhero called Nightwolf. I speculated it's probably going to be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It could be, I'd also be down for a Terry Crews or an Arnold or a Sly, but a Denzel would also be pretty damn cool too. King Kong ain't got nothing on me. I mean, to see him as that would be pretty cool too. I like it. Not my first pick, but I gotta say, Ben, I like it. I like the way you're thinking on that. That would be fun to see. And it'd be good to see Denzel in a pure comedy again. All right. Stubble McShave writes, Stephen Lang as an aging superhero in Hearts. Stephen Lang, Slang, as he likes to be called. Hey, look, for a long time, there are people, including this guy, including me, that loved the idea of Stephen Lang as Cable. I thought Josh Brolin did great. Josh Brolin was great. But I also really love Stephen Lang. And by the way, did you see him in that little horror film a year or two ago? A couple of years ago, Don't Say a Word? Or Don't Breathe. That's what it was. Don't Breathe. Oh my God, where he's the blind guy? Forget about it. He's so good in that. I love Stephen Lang. So yeah, I'd be down for that one too, Stubble. Okay, guys, just a couple of minutes left here. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. Nehemiah Brumfeld writes, can Thanos be brought back at least in Eternals? If I'm not mistaken, he's an Eternal with a deviant gene that affected his appearance. He's also immortal. I mean, you can. Now, I don't believe he is an Eternal. I think his father was an Eternal, if I'm not mistaken. I think his father was an Eternal. So there is a possibility we could see, depending on when it happens. But then again, they already said, Kevin Feige said from the stage at Comic-Con that the Eternals is going to take place on Earth, with these being these Eternals who have been on Earth for 3,500 years. So is the possibility there that we could see a younger Thanos? Maybe. But it sounds like it's not going to be a prequel movie. It sounds like it's going to be modern day, maybe with a flashback. So that's possible. It's possible. But in the movies, they never reference him at all being an Eternal. In the movies, they just reference he's a Titan. He's from Titan. That's what he is. That's what he's from. So this could be one of those situations where the movies are different from the comic books. So it all depends on how but I'll say it's possible. From all the stuff we're hearing, it's definitely possible. I don't know if it's likely, but it's possible. All right. Jeff Jordan writes, just finished The Boys. Amazing. Now more than ever, I want a Mystery Men series on Amazon Prime. Do you think it'll ever happen? No, I don't. But I don't want a Mystery Men series. I want a Mystery Men sequel. I want Mystery Men 2. Mystery Men was a movie that was so far ahead of its time. I unabashedly love Mystery Men. That movie was so far ahead of its time, it's crazy. And I want a legit sequel with Hank Azaria, Ben Stiller, William H. Macy, Janine Garofalo, Pee Wee Herman. I want to see them all come back and do like a Mystery Men 20 years later. That's what I want. I want that badly. Now, if you make that an Amazon Prime series, sure, I'm down for that too. But I would love to see Mystery Men again because that thing was so far ahead of its time. Anyway, Jonathan Joyner writes, where are we at here? Hey, John, there was so much I want to talk about with the boys. I wish you had a spoiler discussion on it. Also, Regal Unlimited, and it's worth the price. You also get rewards that could make a $40 trip to the movies a $5 to $9 one. Oh, absolutely. And that's the great thing about A-List as well. You get rewards for that as well. You get rewards from I mean, this is a great time. While movies are getting more and more expensive to go to, the fact that plans like these come along, prime. Just great. I love it. You know, Ann and I just went to Good Boys last night, used my AMC. I use my AMC card all the time, or my AMC A-List all the time. It's such a great thing to do. You know what? It's too late to do a boys spoiler discussion. I'm starting to regret that I didn't do one. It's too late now. It's too late. But I think, Jonathan, I've come to the point where I think maybe I regret that I didn't do one because I really would love to talk about that show too. But again, I think it's just too late to do one at this point. But man, I like that show. Oh, I like The Boys so much. Anyway, thanks for sharing, man. All right. Last question of the day, guys. And then don't worry for all the rest of you guys from Devontae Brown, Josh Bing, everybody else down. Do not worry. Your questions will get answered in a companion video. I'm going to gather them up. I'm going to put them over in in my folder here for the next companion video, which will probably be a little bit later today. So keep your eyes open for that. But we're over 2 hours now. So we're going to end off today with Austin Wainscott, who writes the following. Reports of an Obi-Wan series come up really close to D23 weekend. Me. Don't do that. Don't give me hope. Oh yeah, I have no doubt. I have no doubt now that we're going to get an announcement, an official announcement about this at D23. There are a couple things I'm convinced are going to happen. Number one, I'm 100% convinced that we're going to get a new Star Wars Episode 9 trailer. Of that, I have no doubt. No insider information. This is just me speculating, but I feel very confident we're going to get a new trailer at D23. I feel 90% sure we're going to get an announcement on Obi-Wan. And I feel 70% sure we're going to get MCU from 2022 to 2023. At Comic-Con, they talked about the MCU for 2020 and 2021. I feel like at D23, they're going to talk about 2022 and 2023. That'll include Black Panther 2. That will include Captain Marvel 2. That will include Doctor Strange 2. That will include Blade. That will include Avengers 5. And probably one or two other things as well. So I feel 70% about that, 90% about Obi-Wan, 100% about a new Star Wars. I think a lot of good things are going to happen at D23, and I am very, very excited about all of it. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show on this Friday. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us on this Friday. Congratulations on conquering another week. You made it through to the weekend. I hope you all have some fabulous plans for the weekend that are both fun and relaxing, surrounded by friends and family, or if you need a little time, a little me time, maybe just all by yourself. Whatever it is you need this weekend, I hope you guys get it. Don't forget, guys, again, a companion video will be dropping a little bit later today. And of course, this weekend, we have open mic this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. Keep your eyes open for that. And then, of course, the John Campea Show returns again on Monday with Robert Meyer Burnett and Chris Carr joining me here in studios. Guys, thank you to all of you for being here and giving us a film fan community to get together every day and talk about this stuff with. Special thanks to all you guys who sent in super chats. Number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported the channel while you're doing it. And also, guys, don't forget, once again, make sure you're doing a couple of things. subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you haven't done so already, click that subscribe button, become a subscriber. Click the thumbs up video on this video if you enjoy these types of discussions, and make sure you jump down to the comments section and leave your thoughts on any or all the topics that we discussed here today. And also a special thank you to all of you guys who are Patreon supporters, being a part of our Patreon supporter Facebook group. A little bit later today, you're going to see a post go up for the new Best of the Week podcast, which is only for our Patreon members, and of course, audio-only versions of the podcasts for the John Campea Show, which are only available to you guys, my Patreon supporters. So thank you guys for all that. End of a week, guys! But we've got a new weekend ahead of us and a new week after that. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks lots for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.